Blue Apron, take back dinner. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Liars Club. I'm Felicia Michaels.
And I'm Jessica Wellington.
And what we do here at the Liars Club is we have two of our comedy pals come on. We ask them to tell two stories. One is a truth and one is a lie. And then we try to figure out which one is the lie. For everybody that's listening to this instead of watching it on YouTube, know that we do stream live from the Comedy Store's YouTube Mondays at 4:30-ish and most Fridays at 8:30-ish. Although today is a Thursday, we have a special podcast today. Jessica, please introduce our guests.
I would love to. This woman, hey, you guys, your mic's on in there, Buddy Rose. Hey, Michael. Gotcha, thank you. This lady to my left here, she is a comedian, actress, producer, and writer. She appeared in 2 specials in 1 month on HBO and Showtime. She's in the film Comedian with Robert De Niro. You can catch her right now on the Tiffany Haddish's Netflix show, They Ready. You've seen her on Comedy Central, NBC's Last Comic Standing, Finals, Fox Laughs, and Nickelodeon's Mom's Night Out. This is Aida Rodriguez.
Right. Wow. Welcome to the show, Aida.
Thank you. That was a very, that's a good intro. I've never.
Well, I think you probably come up with it, most of it.
Mm. Who, me?
No? Yeah.
No.
I want to resend.
I don't have that much of self-esteem. Somebody else did that for sure.
I just want to say I watched the thing on Netflix with Tiffany Haddish, and I just thought your set was freaking outstanding.
Thank
just
you.
Really wonderful. Like, just so heartfelt and so, like, who you are 100% without apologies, and I loved it.
Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
Very humbling. Thank you.
And our next guest, Jessica?
Yes. He is a New York actor, comedian, and funny home video enthusiast.
Oh, dear.
Oh, my God. Really? That's what
That
you're going to
far
start
back, really?
off with? Holy shit.
Michael
my
was
youth.
so happy that you were going to be on the show because of a funniest home videos.
I only did it for drug money.
You may have heard him on Sirius XM show Tell Me Everything. That's his show. He's been on Just for Laughs Festival, HBO US Comedy Arts Festival. You may remember him from Coyote Ugly or Price Check or all over the news.
I've been killed on CSI.
CSI. His film Dream On is about a road trip to search of the American dream.
This is like, what's my blood type?
Yeah, but he's already living the American dream because he's interviewed Beyonce.
Yes.
Wow.
This
All
is
right.
John Fugelsang.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, John Fugelsang. Thank you so much for joining us.
Half
I
of
appreciate
that
it.
are lies.
Yeah. So now, John, your XM show got moved time slot wise, right? Is it still under the same name, or is it a whole
Same
different
name.
channel?
Yeah, we relaunched 2 weeks ago. I've been working for a couple years on the Insight channel, which was sort of like NPR with better dick jokes. And then they asked me if I would go to the Progress channel evenings. So we launched 2 weeks ago. I didn't know if it would work, but the comedians like coming and being funny 9 to midnight a lot more than in the afternoon. And
Right.
Pete Townsend was our first guest.
Oh, wow.
It was really a riot. We've already had Dan Rather and Robbie Robertson and Kathleen Turner and Judd Apatow and Jeff Garland. And a lot of fun people have already
You
done it.
have the best guests on your show,
Well,
for sure.
I've had you, so there you go.
Well,
I was going to say, you still want us?
The great thing about Sirius, I've done like so many TV shows, but at Sirius, I get total control and I never have to interview anyone I don't want. It's never like, now next, the stars of Vampire Diaries. Nothing against them, but
Right,
you know,
right.
So it's really cool. We're real snobs, and we turn down a lot of the people they send.
Well, you certainly do have great guests. And just so that you guys know out there, to my right is our on-air producer, Austin Walker. He will be taking questions if you're playing along live with us. I know this is an unusual time slot that we usually do, but we're so excited that you guys could make it. Please play along. And over there in the sound booth, right there is Michael Evans. Put yourself on camera, Michael. Give
Hello,
a wave.
everybody. I'm on camera, baby.
There you
I'm
go.
holding it down.
Our buddy Jason Marino's already here, and
Oh,
he
wonderful.
says that this already sounds like a lie from John Fugelsang. So off to a good start.
I know it is going to be interesting to see who is the. We've been kind of talking about who you think's going to be a better liar, John or Ida. John or Ida. I say John.
No, I say Ida.
Yeah. For no other reasons, just then, why not?
Well, I am a white cis male, so you shouldn't trust me to begin with. But what kind of a liar would I be if I told you I was going to be the best liar today.
Right, that's
not
very
me.
true.
It's so awkward. Oh my God.
But Ida has kids, like teenage kids, and I think she knows how to lie.
Yeah,
I
when you
had
have
to
kids.
lie about them. I hid a
Yeah.
pregnancy from my mom because I thought she was going to murder me.
How long did you hide your pregnancy for?
6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow. And then did she eventually like, what's up, girl? Was she
No, I
like,
had to tell. I had to
Really?
tell. Yeah.
that must have been terrible.
Yeah, it was. It
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. Well, anyway, you have two of the most beautiful children on the planet.
Yes.
They're pretty
They all right.
good looking and smart and very cool chicks and a gentleman. So let's move on. We're going to do our stories. I think we should start with John. And before you tell the story, just know that this podcast is brought to you by Blue Apron. Take back dinner. There you go, John.
Okay. Now, just one or two?
You're going to tell a story, and then we're going to rotate it, Ida, then you, then
Beautiful.
Ida, and then we're going to vote at the end.
Oh, my. Well, okay, everything I say is absolutely true. I want to get that out of the way.
Okay.
Every story I tell is really true. A couple of years ago, this really happened. I was
Okay.
I was a young VJ, my first broadcasting job, and they would send me on the road a lot. And one time they sent me to Farm Aid, and I got to see
The
Neil
original,
Young.
how many times did they do Farm
They've
Aid?
done like 20 Farm Aids. I
Okay.
think.
Was it
I've
the-
heard of Live Aid. What is Farm Aid?
Farm Aid started in the 80s because Bob Dylan did Live Aid and was pretty much incoherent, but at one point he said they should do something like this for the farmers. And then Willie Nelson and Neil Young and John Mellencamp all got together and started these concerts, and everyone's done them over the years. And the nice thing about being a VJ was I'd never traveled, and so they flew me all over. And I got to go to Kentucky to go to Farm Aid. And
Now,
didn't-
was it the first one?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
No, I was not. I'm not that elderly. But it was, and it was a year that it was the '90s. It was like Dave Matthews Band and Hootie Elos Blowfish and Neil Young, and Neil Young was great. And I got to go on Willie Nelson's trailer. I had to interview him.
Uh-huh.
And he's done my show a few times on Sirius XM, so this was the first time I ever met him. And he was incredible. This is the trailer that got pulled over and they were arrested on him. And when we were done with the shoot and the interview and talking about the plight of farmers, he invited me. Well, first it was Paul, his bass player, and then he invited, who's no longer with us. And then Willie said, you want to stick around? And my producer left. She was lovely, and she left. And I said, I'm just stay here and talk some more, get some stories. And I'm proud to say I was very young. I got baked.
I was going to say you had to smoke
I
weed
got
with Willie Nelson.
But it was so baked with Willie Nelson. It
Uh-huh.
was, and I come from like a spiritual background. My parents were both in the clergy. That's really true. You know that. I'm not.
Right. You know, that
and
part is true.
Have you ever played a clergyman on TV?
I've played pedophiles, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Same thing.
No, only in my Tinder account. So no, it was like the first time I had gotten high with someone that I respected. And when you're high with Willie Nelson and you're in your 20s, the whole thing is just completely surreal. And I babbled incoherently to him, and I was so embarrassed. I had all the Catholic guilt of my entire life. And when after a couple hours, I said to him, I really got too chatty. It's just I grew up with you. I love you. And I was talking about his Spirit album, and he hugged me, and he said, God doesn't want you to feel bad about yourself. And like I never got to tell him, but he healed everything from junior high school in that moment.
Oh.
Yeah, he healed everything from junior high school in that moment.
You're
Yeah.
taking it a little too far on that. You know?
Healed
No, it was
everything
amazing.
from
This was
junior-
Farm Aid. It was in the '90s in Lexington, Kentucky.
Did
and,
he have braids?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were very long. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and his
They-
whole family was there too. Like Lucas was very young then, but he was touring with his family.
Did you smoke pot with him in front of his family?
No,
No.
but I mean, I'm sure he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like Paul English, with the bass player was there, and a lot of the roadie guys were there.
So was it joints or was it like a
it was all
one-hitter?
pipes. No, he had a big.
Now, Willie
he had a-
Nelson is about blunt.
No, not on the bus. It was a big. It was
She doesn't
literally
know.
a big bowl, like a fruit bowl, but it
Uh-huh.
was filled with buds. And he always says people just give it to him. He's never paid for it anywhere in his life. And so he just had a gigantic bowl, and there were little clay pipes everywhere. Like they just stock up on pipes for the tour.
And how
He
much?
was arrested in the town where I'm from.
Yes, he was.
Dudley, North Carolina. He came
Yeah.
to do a concert. They knew what they were getting with Willie
They
Nelson.
pulled him over.
They pulled him over and arrested him
By the way, for
having-
weed.
Yeah.
God, who produces it around the world, is still at large, but they got Willie Nelson for it.
Wow, I have so many questions. Like, how many bowls of weed do you think you smoked with Willie?
Oh God, at least 5. But it wasn't just him. There was like 6 other guys. It was all men.
So just like one little bowl?
No, it was like one little
I know,
bowl
but if
6
there's
times.
5 guys, then
No,
it's
there were
just...
multiple pipes.
Oh, multiple
Yeah.
pipes. Okay.
Multiple.
And can they be big pipes? Like they can be bigger, can't they?
They weren't, but I mean, sure they can. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, they
Okay.
were just like average sized, stuff you see at a head shop.
And how long did this...
Cheap and disposable as if you need to throw out the window because you're in North Carolina.
And how long were you in his bus, right? In the
Yeah,
bus?
yeah.
And how long were you in there while you were getting high?
Oh, like 90 minutes. We talked about the Bible.
Were all the windows closed, so super hotboxed?
Did you steal this from
I don't remember if the windows were closed.
King of the Hill?
It's also a Toby Keith song, I think.
Yeah, because
What was
Hank
that?
met Willie Nelson on King of the Hill.
I will say that at one point, the Hootie and the Blowfish guys... No, they went. I saw the episode because Bob Dylan was talking to Boomhauer on that episode, right? And they couldn't understand each other.
Oh, my God. You might have just called that out, Jessica.
Well, hey,
No, you can go look it up. This was at Lexington, Kentucky Farm Aid, 1995.
No, we're not allowed to
I think.
Google. We're
Oh,
not
you
allowed
can't
to
Google
Google.
anything.
That's the rule of the
Oh,
game.
okay.
Did you just say Live Aid or Farm Aid?
Farm Aid.
Oh, okay.
Hey,
Lexington, Kentucky.
To be fair, Willie Nelson is always rolling around, being famous, having a trailer, and smoking weed. Like, isn't this probably a pretty common way to meet him? If
It's
people
not-
do get to spend some time
Like
with him?
I have.
Yeah.
As years went by, I had that experience with other famous people, but Willie's the one I feel totally comfortable saying it about. Because it was really, like, I talk about religion a lot, but this was like a spiritual lifting experience of just like, you meet one of your heroes and you're a moron, but then he says one thing that just makes you forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Were you a regular pot smoker?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Good
Because all
question.
that spiritual lifting might have just been you were wrecked, man.
No, I don't doubt it was a higher quality than they had in New York City at the time, but no, it was not new to me.
So did you make an ass of yourself at any point?
I thought I did, but I think he wanted to talk. I told him about my parents' background. My mom was a nun and my father was a Franciscan, and he was fascinated by that. And so we talked about God, and we talked about like Jesus as this rebel figure versus the Jesus that the fundamentalists push. And I was like, you should write songs about that because you're a guy who can sell that Jesus was a rebel and that he wasn't a conservative and that he was, like not anti-gay and not anti-sex. You could sell that to conservative folks with the right songs.
Is Franciscan somebody from San Francisco?
No. Not even close.
Hate to admit that I had the same
Yeah,
question.
no, they changed that.
Oh, they're so cute, aren't they?
Franciscans were an order from Ireland that came to New York in the 1800s and built schools. So my dad wore the Jedi robes, and taught history to Catholic
Like
boys.
priests.
Yeah, they're like priests. They're celibate, but they can't say mass.
And then they settled in Northern California, where San Francisco comes from.
Ida, you can ask questions too, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm in awe of the story. I believe the story.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I do.
It was
Yeah.
just, like Willie Nelson it's a punchline, him and cannabis, kind of. But like that experience at the time, it was really, really special because he is such a genuine, real.
Yeah,
He's done my show. I mean, he's been on the radio show.
It's like one of the country singers who don't look like they secretly belong to the KKK.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right there.
He
He
sang at
feels
Jimmy
like-
Carter's convention. I mean, Willie,
Yeah.
he's the real deal. And we talked about how Jesus was anti-death penalty, but never anti-abortion, and he really got off on talking about that.
Now, the other guys that were around him, his band members, were they like kissed up to him? Like, were they whatever? Or would they give it right back
Quite
to
the
him?
opposite.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
exactly. Yeah. I don't think he'd respect them. if
How
they-
tall is Willie compared to you?
He comes up to like my shoulder, up here.
Yeah.
I saw one of his roadie guys on the Picker show. They picked his house and he had a lot of Willie Nelson stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he seemed pretty laid back, like a
I
real.
love that show.
I think
You guys
he
ever
also
watch
liked that.
show?
Like I was into his music. Like I knew the Spirit album, and
Yeah.
I love his covers. And I think he's bored of just playing the hits. And he got off that like somebody under the age of 30 wanted to talk about his more obscure records and stuff.
It's so funny because I know you're really into music, so I'm like, this could totally be a lie because you would be able to reference anything Willie Nelson.
Right.
Yeah.
That doesn't.
Oh, the
make sense.
Spirit
Don't
album.
believe it because
That's
of that. Yeah.
That's a good story to start the game off. Do we have anything that people are saying online, Austin?
Ryan Sypex says that he bets that hanging out with Willie is always on John's mind now. To which I would argue probably not after all that weed. It's
No,
probably
he was
slipped.
wonderful, and his wife
Yeah.
is super cool as well.
She was there
She
too?
was not there that night, but I
Okay.
got to know her subsequently.
Okay.
Jason Marino says he can go either way. It's a common thing, like Mike said, but that also makes it easy to lie about. And that's kind of where I'm at, too, where it's like, it's kind of everybody wants that story.
Yeah.
I
Somebody
thought
in
it was
John's
so
position
cool,
probably
but
has
I guess
that
it is
story.
very common, yeah.
No, it's a cool story, but it's definitely like a mark of a good player in this game because you're very calm about it. You have references. It's not like a fancy.
Well, I'm
crazy
heavily medicated,
story. Yeah.
Felicia.
Oh,
Keep
you
that
are.
in mind, yes.
Wow. Sounds like you. Anyway. All right. Well, let's move on to Ida's first story.
Okay, so this is a story that I feel shame to say, but I'm gonna tell it because I got to get it out. So I think about 5 people who are close to me know that this happened, and I come from Miami where strippers are groomed, right? The Uncle Luke from Two Life Crew was the DJ in my middle school parties, like our school dances.
Really?
Uncle
Yeah,
Luke.
Uncle Luke.
Wow.
I used to DJ weddings.
Did you? Nothing like.
I don't think you were like Uncle Luke.
I don't think so either. Which is funny because the things that you would learn in middle school is like to pop that coochie, it was just a very, it was just a very interesting culture because I was raised Seventh-day Adventist. So I was not allowed to wear pants. I didn't wear earrings. I was fascinated by strippers. I've always been fascinated by strippers because they feel so empowered. And
Is that how you and Felicia became friends?
No.
Near Michael laughing through the wall in there.
Yeah.
Although I am in awe of Felicia because she tells her story with humor and confidence. And I feel that because of my religious background, I don't tell the story because I feel shame about it.
You seem like such a badass, though, to be.
Yeah, but you don't know me at home where I was raised by people who were, it's on Friday nights, the electricity would go off and we were not allowed to turn the electricity back on until the sundown on Saturday.
Wow.
So
Wow.
And not just
Yeah.
to save on the electric bill.
No, well, that too, but they said it was for Jesus.
Now, was this on your mother's side?
Yeah,
Or-
my
okay.
mom, my grandmother, we
Okay.
were Seventh-day Adventists. But so I went to school with some of the most popular strippers in Miami who went on to become like these iconic strippers, right? And I always revered them and I've secretly desired to do that. But I was not ever confident enough to do it. So I have a friend I call the devil. Like I have a friend that's the angel and a friend that's the devil. And when I lived I went to school in Tallahassee. My friend convinced me that I should do an amateur night.
What T-shirt night?
Yeah, it was. They call it amateur night. So now, mind you, I ended up interning for Uncle Luke, and I was around strippers all the time. And I was a student of the strippers because strippers in Miami in the urban scene,
Student of the arts.
they make their asses clap. Like
Yeah.
they do.
Right,
Like they
right.
I saw a girl like put a whole pink lotion bottle in her vagina and then pull it out. Like they make thousands and thousands of dollars. And I was and it
Notice
wasn't-
how we're all leaning into your story.
yeah, because I was. Well, you can see I'm blushing because it was just something that I always said I wanted to do, even if I just did once. And it was more about feeling confident in my body and being able, because I could do all of the things that they did, but I would always do it behind closed doors. But mind you, every girl that grew up where I grew up could, because it was part of the music, the culture. It was Two Live Crew. Everybody was doing these weird dances. You would go to a party and girls were doing lap dances. It was nothing. It was nothing out of the ordinary to be able to do these things. So for me, it was a bucket list thing for me. I was like, I just want to do it one time. I want to get it out of my system. Like I really wanted to be able to say that I did that for me and my friends, because we all had these weird bucket list things.
How
that
old
we
were you
wanna
at this
do.
point?
19.
19.
So, and I was out of my house because I was out of the house when I was 17. So I didn't have to hear but I still, walked around with the religious shame and even though I was doing all kinds of things that my mom would look down on, that was something that I was really just afraid to do. And so anyway, we drive to Palatka.
Oh, Palatka, Florida. Wow.
I've been to
Palatka,
Palatka. I know
Florida.
Palatka.
Man.
Where and the reason why Palatka is because people would never expect a Puerto Rican girl to be stripping in Palatka,
Why is that?
Because Palatka is all white.
She was probably the only Puerto Rican girl for 100 miles.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
And maybe the only person young enough to breathe on their own for 100 miles.
Oh, really?
But
I know Palatka.
yeah. And they had a place called the White Elephant where they had an amateur night. And so let me tell you something about Palatka, which in addition to the rush of being able to go and do the stripping, right? The dancing, it was a rush that me and 3 black girls were in a place where we could die for just being black and brown girls in that place, right? So my friend the devil, Shantae, who is she is the person that, was the one that told me I should smoke weed. It was the first person that told me I should have sex. It was the first person that told me that, I should pursue whatever. She used to say, hey, whatever the fuck you want to do, you do that shit. You don't know when you gonna die. And then she'll give me an example of somebody that we knew that just died. So she boosted me up.
Okay. Right.
So and Jesus, we laugh about this all the time because they boosted me up so bad that I went in there doing my best impression of what I thought a stripper was, right? And so it was my idea of what to wear, right? So I had on these boots that were these latex boots that were 6 inches, and I couldn't walk in that. I'm 5'10".
Oh, no, so you got to do platform. Were they platform or?
They were not platform, and I did not have the ab strength for the boots, right?
Right. Because the platform, it's easier to walk around in, and
so, but I had on a wig. I was told that.
Why'd you wear a wig?
Because I thought people were gonna recognize me.
it's unbelievable.
I always thought that my mom would always find out because my mom. Listen, I skipped school one day from middle school. The very first time I skipped school, went to smoke weed at my friend Martha's house. Nobody ever. My mom didn't even know Martha. Halfway through us dancing on the on the couches, my mom is in the yard honking the horn, saying, "I know you're in there. Come on out." I don't know to this day how she found me, but she found me.
But let me ask you this: how far was Palatka? Is that
Palatka.
Palatka is from your home.
So no, I was in Tallahassee.
So how far is Palatka from
So
Tallahassee?
it's like 2 hours. It was like.
And you were worried that someone would recognize you?
In Florida? Absolutely. I'm worried about things I do in California that my mom will find out. It's just she's in my head. She lives there.
All right.
And so and it's not so mind you, Felicia, I got 5 uncles. 3 of them were drug dealers that were running up and down the state of Florida.
Right.
And I know a lot of people knew my family. So
hey, my mom did drugs all up and down Florida.
Oh,
maybe.
my
You ever stop in
uncle
Polk
might have
County?
sold it to her. Polk County. So yeah.
I stripped for drugs all up and down Florida. I resonate with this story on so many levels.
So the embarrassing part is not the stripping. The embarrassing part is that you're stripping for a bunch of like truck stop old white men.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them ain't got teeth in their mouth. They look grimy and dirty. You think, I got this shit. Like, what are they gonna say to me, right? And I could not connect with the pole. And
What do you mean you couldn't connect with
I
the pole?
busted my ass. I fell. And it was probably one of the most embarrassing things that ever happened to me because the people that were shaming me, I thought
Doing this so serious.
No, I was embarrassed. I thought that they were beneath me, right? And they are looking at me like, bitch, next. Do you see? You talk about Willie Nelson. One of them motherfuckers looked like Willie Nelson and was like, onward, bitch. We thought the exotic Puerto Rican bitch and I went up with the most confidence in the world. And mind you, my friends, thank God there was no phones.
I know.
Because
my friends
weren't shit. So Shantae is like yelling at me, like, bitch, all this coaching we did, this is in the middle of
Oh,
this.
she's yelling at you too?
Yeah, while I'm being chastised by the people.
Are you
that were
like
there.
crawling off on your hands and knees?
Yeah,
or?
I couldn't do the shoes anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah, I couldn't do it. It was very humiliating and embarrassing, but it made me feel like I got to do it again. I feel like I owe myself still that moment to get that out of my system. And
Do you need a driver?
you be the old stripper bitch like that. I don't care what they say.
God.
But the funny thing is, I went back to Palaka for one of my friends who went to school with me has family there, and I went there for a family dinner, and there was one of her relatives kept saying, "I know you. I know I met you before."
How many years later?
It was Steph. So it was maybe about 2 years later.
Uh-huh.
I don't think that person actually knew me, or they might have thought they know me, but I was so in my head about that moment, and I was like, please don't let this be one of the white people
No, you've
who
been
saw
on
me.
TV way more
No,
than
no,
you've
no, no,
No,
stripped.
this is way
This
before.
was way
This is
before.
like
I had never been on television, but I was like, please don't let this be one of the white people that was at the at the White Elephant that night. So, to this day, I was like, no, we never met before.
Wow. I can almost believe that story because I had an experience. I did a Playboy magazine, and the people at Playboy were like, it should be like a funny spread, like so. But their idea of funny was like, you're in a bathroom and you're all sexy, but there's a piece of toilet paper on your shoe, like that kind of shit. And one of the things was I was on a bed. You're so hot that you put the bed on fire, like that's what their idea of funny was. So I'm not blessed up here necessarily. So when I was on this beautiful Victorian bed, and they had to put these sandbags up under my back just so I would be able to have boobies, right? But there was a guy, like a stagehand, behind the bed, and so he would have to hide, and then the photographer was on a huge ladder, and they were photographing down, right? So he would have to hide, and then he would pop up, and he would squirt the flame with lighter fluid, and then he would have to go. And so one time he did it, and fucking went poof, right? And I was all like, what the fuck, right? And I fell off the bed, and so the photographer's right here, and I'm completely naked, and I open up my leg so far that it caused a draft in the room, right? I was so embarrassed. So I understand that when you're trying, because that's such a like primordial thing to be like,
and let me just
sexy.
say,
Yeah,
I didn't take my bottom off. I only did the top. I only went topless. I freaked out. The other thing is that I didn't know when I went. If you've ever been into the bathroom of the stripper bathroom, they got baby wipes everywhere, right? And there are baby wipes in the toilet, and it's because they wipe down because they got to get on the pole naked. And that freaked me out. So I did not want to put my bare vagina on it. I just started thinking I can still feel it. Like it smelled. There was this distinct smell in the bathroom that was funky as hell, and I was like, I'm not putting my coochie on that pole with all those other coochies been there.
There was baby wipes in the bathroom?
Yeah, they have them in the bathroom.
That's an interesting detail.
You've never been to the Spearmint Rhino? Like when you go in the bathroom, the strippers use that bathroom. They got baby wipes all over.
I mean,
Really?
I could see that, but in a way, people would flush them like crazy.
No, they're in the toilet.
Wait a minute.
They're in the trash can.
Spearmint Rhino, White Elephant. That seems like we're just going colors and.
Why,
the
you've never
beast
heard
there.
of Spearmint Rhino?
I think large and Caucasian is a theme in strip club
Oh,
audiences.
those are, yeah. You've never been to the Spearmint. All
No.
those clubs, those
Yeah.
clubs all have those kinds of names. And there's a fascination with elephants. And
Mhm.
the Spearmint Rhino is downtown Los Angeles, and it is open till 4:00 in the morning.
I've
and the
dropped
women
people
are-
off there on Uber
Yeah.
Oh, really?
many times.
Well, that's a good story to start with, too. What about your thoughts, Michael Evans, over there?
You know what? I'm thinking. Well, first of all, you should see the men's room at a strip club.
Why?
No, thank
It's
you.
a totally different
No.
story.
No. Yeah,
right.
bring a black light.
Yeah, it's like a Krispy Kreme
Oh.
near closing time.
Near closing.
My thoughts on the story, kind of like John's. It all just felt real sincere and realistic. I don't know, like she was honest about moral hang-ups. Everything just checks out to me. I guess I got to hear another story. You know.
Yeah, I told you she's going to be the hard one.
Yeah, but to me it sounds like it could be Shantae's story. It could be the devil's story, and you co-op.
Shantae.
Isn't that the devil's name? Was you said?
No,
was,
Shantae would never fall off of a stripper pole. Ever. She can make
She
her ass
trained for that
clap.
shit. Shantae's
She's
ready.
like the
Good
hot-
woman.
now, how did you exactly fall down?
So you know when you get on a stripper pole, it's all abs, right? It's all center. It's all your
Core.
core, and so
I danced for years. That's my next story. I'll get to it. Go ahead.
Okay.
so there is a technique to getting on a pole. And I made the assumption that because I knew how to dance and that I could get down with the rest of them, that I knew how to do that. I underestimated that is why do you look like that?
Because I never did the pole because I'm not
You
a good
never did
dancer.
the pole?
I never did the pole.
What did you
Oh,
do?
were you even a
I-
stripper then?
She danced.
I did this.
What a
and then
feeling.
They gave me money.
And the stripper pole didn't come out. It didn't
No, they
become mainstream.
Yeah, they had stripper poles, but the chicks that did the stripper pole were in shape and on meth. I know.
Ex-firefighters.
Yeah,
It's all
yeah.
core strength.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So
But
I-
what I kind of roll my eyes about is the first time you're doing it, you're doing pole action. To me,
I
that's
didn't connect with the pole. Is
But-
my point. Is
right. But
that-
you did try to go on the pole.
Yeah,
All right.
everybody in Miami, you go to somebody's house, they have stripper poles in the house. That's not.
Hecklers
That's
think they
not-
can do stand-up.
Yeah, but the thing is also
I don't
that.
know about that.
Good point.
And the
Yeah.
thing, it's true, but no. The reason why in the white stripping community, that is something that just became like the S Factor. Sheila Kelly from
Sheila Kelly.
did a book about it, and
She was in the
that
movie.
shit is something that is ingrained in the urban culture in Miami. And if you go to somebody's house, somebody's mother will jump on a stripper pole, and that is not me. This is beside the story. It's not something out of this world.
I'm very suspect
Wait,
in that.
Felicia-
Of course, because you ain't never got on the pole. You ain't never been on the stripper pole.
Because I had low self-esteem and I listened to myself like, you can't fucking get on that stripper pole.
Yeah, but
Felicia-
I have so many friends who can do a stripper pole and they're not strippers because
Yeah, they have the classes now.
But they can't do it like for as long as a stripper could do it, right? Like that's
Yeah, they
like
could
what
probably
you
do
don't
it
have.
longer, I bet.
Nicole, who's an actress in LA, she can stay on that stripper pole as long as anybody on.
They have
any
aerobics
But
classes,
someone
Mike.
that's doing it to make their living night in, night out has got to have an endurance that
No.
your hobbyist just can't have.
And what year was this?
I'm not going to tell the year because I don't want to date myself.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Felicia, did you dance on stages with poles and you just didn't use
I
it?
just was because I am okay. I stripped in two places. One was a Peppermint Lounge in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
See there, peppermint.
Peppermint Lounge. There was no poles.
But it's not peppermint leopard.
Right.
You're right, but
Right.
there was.
Peppermint
there was.
But it's
Pachyderm.
spearmint and it's like a
Hey, Sheila Kelly's movie was The Blue Iguana.
yeah.
Yeah. But there were no poles. They had 3 stages, and one was like literally like the size of like a cocktail table, and but they had lots of mirrors. So, but then when I moved to Los Angeles, I stripped at the airport called the Jet Strip, and there was a pole there. But the chicks that did that were like tiny little chicks and not a
Jet
lot
strip.
of people
That's
did
like a
that.
triple entendre when you think about
and
it.
not a lot of people did the pole, and that was in L.A.
But in Miami, if you look up the Rolex,
Uh-huh.
everybody was on the stripper pole. It's not, and
but that wasn't Miami. That was Palatka or
yeah,
whatever.
but that's Florida. It's
Okay.
all when I'm talking about Florida. When I say it, I mean Florida. It's the part of the culture, the dancing culture. The stripper pole is part of the culture. It's not something out of the ordinary.
all right.
And I know, like,
We can agree to disagree.
yeah, no, it is.
You'll
And
never dance in Palatka again.
No, never. I don't ever want to even drive through Palatka. But they have and the way that the stage is set up, the people are sitting around like a square. So you feel you are I don't know if you've done comedy and around, you are embarrassed on 4 sides because when I hit the floor, there were people here, people here, people here, and people there. That shit was the utmost embarrassing.
So
shit.
what move were you actually trying to attempt
I was just
on
trying
the
to
pole?
I was trying to get onto the pole.
oh,
I never
just
got-
pull yourself up?
Yeah, and I
okay.
never did because
For-
I had first of all, I had the shoes. I couldn't. I just didn't have the.
Did you
strength,
practice
right?
on a pole before then?
I didn't practice shit. I thought I could just do that shit. I thought I was the
Hecklers
hotness.
think they can do stand-up.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody practicing stripping
You know,
in
you say-
Miami. They go from the house to the strip club.
The only thing thing I
You
have a problem
practice
with
at the strip club.
is the culture thing, because I know I lived in Sebring, Florida
Mhm.
for a year or so, and for a few weeks I was DJing with this guy, this Latin night,
Mhm.
and he was teaching me Puerto Rican, what I had to play for different
Mhm.
ones, and there was no stripper pole. Like, they would get down,
Mm-hmm.
but there was no stripper pole. I mean, they still had a lot of the, the dances they would do and stuff, not
Yeah.
necessarily as, get down freaky.
Right.
Well,
You know what I mean?
They
Yeah.
probably couldn't afford it. Sebring, Florida? Are you serious?
I've been to
They
Sebring.
probably-
It's not far from
you
Palatka.
really?
It's not far from Palatka.
They probably,
Is
they
it far from
probably,
Palatka? No, it's central
they
North
probably
Florida.
share
Yeah.
the stripper pole.
All right. Any comments from online?
Dank Abbott and Jason Marino are leaning towards the story being true, and so is Melody Martinez, who's playing along again. Said that starting a story proclaiming faith in sin, this has to be true. Daniel says that she's lying, and he was saying kind of because she said 3 black friends, then she said 3 drug dealers, and it felt like she was kind of picking details from other parts of her story.
I actually have 3 drug dealers in my family, and there are 3 black friends that I have.
In your
and
fam-
that, and
Are you
that's
from
not a
Georgia?
coincidence.
No, I'm from Central Florida, actually.
Central Florida.
About an
He's
hour
from-
south
he
of
was thinking
Palatka.
Okay,
Yeah.
see, I was trying to guess. My people are from Virginia, but I have a lot of
Okay.
people in Florida too.
All right. Well, let's move. Oh, go
Real
ahead.
quick,
Yeah.
Ryan wants pics of this when it's all over, Ida, of you
Yeah.
stripping. So
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead, John. Your second story.
Oh, my second story.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Okay, well, a couple of years back, my brother was working sort of as a volunteer, like a Peace Corps kind of thing, in South America, in Peru. Not in Lima, but
Is
out.
he still religious?
He is not. He's a therapist now.
He went down to there to do therapy?
No, he went down there to do like a Peace Corps style program, but with the Jesuits.
Jesuits?
Yeah, and he went
I
to do
don't
like
know
a.
anything.
way over Jessica's head.
It was like a. It was like a volunteer corps, but instead of the Peace Corps, it was the Jesuits, and it was 2 years he spent in a small town in the desert in Peru, doing social work with homeless street kids who worked for a living. And he kids who shine shoes or carry water at cemeteries, and he spent 2 years of his life down there. And I went down to visit him for a few days, and my girlfriend came too. And we spent a few days with him, and they lived in real poverty. Like you had to carry a bucket of water to flush the toilet where he was. And he kept saying all week, like we'd follow him along on his life and see what his life was like. And my Spanish is really bad. Mi español es muy feo. And he kept telling us the whole time that he had seen UFOs since he'd been there. And now I'm getting the look.
Was he getting into peyote?
No. No, it was the church was sponsoring him. He eventually went to like a Buddhist university to Naropa, so he became emptier than now.
You said the
and then
church was
now-
sponsoring him.
The church was sponsoring this. Yeah, it was.
But he wasn't religious, but he was with the Jezebels.
He was still religious then. He was
The
young.
Jezebels.
The Jesuits are actually one of the least dickish denominations. Pope Francis is a Jesuit. So my brother said, I've been up to the mountains and I've seen these lights, and you want to go sometime while you're here? And I was like, yeah, I want to go. And he said he had talked to all these people in Peru and like academics and people who talked about, he's seen the lights. And so I said, yeah, I want to go. I want to see UFOs. And we drove up this side of a mountain, complete dark, no lights, no street lights, no nothing, terrifying. And we got to the top, and this is the Andes Mountains in a town called Tacna, Peru. And we sat on the top of the mountain, my brother, my girlfriend, and me, who is now my wife. And we looked up at the night sky, and I saw eventually lights in the distance move and change color and change speed and change direction in ways I cannot explain.
Did you tell the story to us when we were on your show in New
Yeah,
York?
I know. I'm like, this story sounds super familiar.
Really? I mean, well, I went on YouTube and I saw videos for it that were exactly like what I saw.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it is on Ancient Aliens, too. A lot of Peru stuff.
This was in Peru. This happened in Peru, not in Lima, but in the desert in Tacna, Peru.
There is no rhythm or rhyme for what she knows or does not know. You know what I mean? Like, so.
This was near a military base, and at first I thought I was looking at helicopters. And then I realized, no, those aren't helicopters. Those are, I can't explain what those are. And it was Rick Overton, our friend, who said, because Rick knows these things. You got to look
Right.
at these video on YouTube. And I looked at it, and sure enough, it was exactly the kind of lights I saw in the sky.
And what did you feel when you were looking at those lights? Did you have fear? Were you like, oh,
No
fuck?
fear, no.
Uh-huh.
I felt like, oh, we'll never know. We'll never know what's going
Mhm.
on. And if the government knows, we'll really never know what's going on.
And how long did those lights last?
Some would just appear and disappear.
Uh-huh.
Some would change speed and direction and color. And they looked like little helicopters in the distance until they would do things that helicopters couldn't do. It wasn't anything glamorous, close encounters, just lights in the sky that I couldn't explain.
Uh-huh.
And it was ultimately comforting because I
Yeah.
thought, all right, I'm never going to know, so I'm not going to worry about whether knowing if it's for real or not. And it was very comforting, and it was very spiritual, like Willie Nelson. These are I'm giving you two things that guys in Oklahoma claim happened to them. They see spaceships and get high with Willie
Right.
Nelson. And
Yeah, that's a good. The question is like when you saw something like that, did that threaten your spirituality or threaten how you'd
No.
been raised, or
no.
did it crumble any like? Because
I
some
wasn't
people who
raised-
are very religious,
Well,
when you start talking about that, they fucking melt
But that's
down.
that's fundamentalism.
Uh-huh,
That's
right.
cult. That's like that's like only my side is the only truth, and that's the fundamentalist Christians, fundamentalist
funny.
Muslims, fundamentalist Jews.
right.
They're the ones with the sex hang-ups and the violence problems and all that. No, for me, I just was like, oh, this is very comforting because it's so much more vast than we can ever understand. And so I nothing spectacular, just lights in the distance that I can't explain.
Yeah.
At first, I thought we were helicopters, and then I kept watching and saw
Isn't
them.
it funny how for me this conversation feels religious because Ida's over here just like,
I believe
amen.
in it, yeah.
Mhm.
By the way, my brother didn't say,
I just been to Palatka because she's seen aliens.
and like some people say it's not from outer space. Some people
Uh-huh.
say that it's interdimensional or it's us in the future and how we return to do stuff, like not necessarily from outer space, but could be from another dimension
Uh-huh.
or the future or.
Have
inner
you ever
space.
seen anything like that since or before then, or anything that you felt was on that kind of level of that is some crazy shit?
Not. I mean, like not on that level. With like,
Uh-huh.
I had a ghost story once, but I mean, Shirley MacLaine once called me. This is a
Uh-huh.
This is all true. Everything I'm saying in every story is true. Shirley MacLaine called me one time because she liked me on Bill Maher, and she told me a story that she once went to a party in Hollywood on Mulholland, and that Ronald and Nancy Reagan came, long before he was president,
Uh-huh.
and that they said that they had seen a UFO over Mulholland on their way to the party, and they swore it was true, and then they never mentioned it in public. But Shirley MacLaine said to me that the Reagans swore they had seen a UFO, and that was the only kind of like thing that I ever had that was like a callback
Yeah.
to that experience.
Have
in
you ever
Tacna, Peru.
seen a UFO before, Ida, or something you couldn't explain?
Of course, yeah. I have seen all kinds of things that are inexplicable, and people have judged me for it. I have a friend who lived in West Hollywood. In her apartment, I kept seeing this little boy, and I told her I'm never coming here again. I keep seeing this little boy, and
Wow.
I left her house.
Was he
and-
riding a big wheel down the hall?
No, he had like the leg braces.
Oh wow.
And I could see
It's
that he
Forrest
was
Gump.
in distress. But I left up her place, and she kept saying, "You're crazy. You're crazy." 2 years later, I ran into her because we had lost touch. She moved to Chicago, and I was like, "You still live in the same place?" She's like, "Hell no! I saw that fucking little boy you kept talking about."
Whoa.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and when I was little, I used to tell my mom all the time that I used to say, "I miss my grandpa rocking me in the rocking chair," and she would always look at me like I was weird, but never would say anything. And when I got older, she was like, "Ida, where did you get this grandpa? What did your grandpa look like?" And I described him. I said, "He looks like me. He just had hair. He had braids. He had lighter eyes. And he was tall. He used to rock me in the rocking chair, and he died before I was born."
Oh, wow.
That's creepy.
So they used to call
That's
me
much better than my story. Yeah.
creepy.
No, it's a pretty good story, but
It is.
I do feel very familiar to that story. Like maybe he did, but then
They
here's
told us that one.
but here's the thing. I
When
don't.
did
Did
I
he
tell
do it
you
as
that?
a lie? Because
That's-
people were calling in.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was a
son
truth
of a
or
bitch.
I
You're
can't
saying
even remember if it was a
You're
truth or a
saying
lie.
I told you that story before?
Yes.
You said a story like
Don't
that.
give it up.
But but I cannot remember
You
if
can't
it,
remember?
if it was a truth or a lie because I think we were kind of playing the game a little
people are
bit.
calling in, and then he was like,
Yeah.
"Well, I'll give you one. You guess."
Yeah, I can't remember now.
Don't give it up. Just,
No, I don't
We
think
don't
she
remember.
Yeah, I don't think
But I
she
just know that
remembers.
we've
No,
heard
I'm
it.
saying
We
to
don't
John because
Yeah, don't give it up though. Don't give it up.
Doesn't John's second story sound like something he maybe just thinks happened sometime in the middle of his first story? This just sounds like a real wrecked ass time with Willie Nelson.
It really happened, but I don't claim that I saw aliens or spaceships. I just
Were
saw
you
lights
on
I can't
drugs
explain.
in
Completely sober.
completely sober?
But it's funny you say that, Michael, because
Completely
Jason
sober.
Marino had a similar thought. He said that his uncle has an acid story just like that.
No, completely.
And
No alcohol, no drugs, no nothing.
he also said that it would be funny if you thought the story was true, but that your brother had been lying to you all along, and there was just somebody with flashlights off in the distance, and they were lying to you.
Could not have been faked.
Wow. All right. We'll move on to Ida's second story.
Oh, so all right. So I have a friend. His name is Charlie Mack. And
That doesn't sound
Charlie
suspicious.
Mack.
No.
Charlie.
Charlie
What's
Mack.
a good name with Charlie? Charlie Mack.
So Charlie Mack was very enamored with me when I moved to LA.
Charlie Max only exists in gay porn. I'm sorry.
And he said to me, he said, Ida, what is something that you what are some of the things that you want to do? Like how I want to make one of your dreams come true. And I said to him, I want to meet Muhammad Ali. And he said,
Why did you want to meet Muhammad Ali?
because he's my hero.
Muhammad Ali.
He's my
Jesus,
hero.
Jessica.
I mean, but of all the people,
Yeah, but
You know,
that's
there's
a
a lot
big
of-
one.
Let
Who
me tell you
cooler
what.
than meet the Muhammad
Yeah.
Ali?
He's like citizen of my heroes were Muhammad Ali and Bruce Lee when I was little.
oh wow.
Yeah, so I loved
I
those
share a
guys.
birthday with Jackie Chan.
Nice. If I wasn't a comic, I'd call you a racist. But I'm true to my comedy brethren. So I said, hey, I want to meet Muhammad Ali, and I went about my business. One day I was leaving church with my daughter and my son. I was at Faithful Central Church, and Charlie Mack called me and said, hey, come meet me down in Beverly Hills. I want to show you something. So I meet him in Beverly Hills. We go to the Beverly Hilton Hotel, and we walk up, knocked on the door, and Muhammad Ali opened the door. And I was like freaked out. My kids didn't know who Muhammad Ali was. They were both like, who's this guy?
How old were they?
Omar was about 8 and Akela was about 4.
All right.
I think so, 4 and 8 maybe.
And was that this guy's real last name was Mac?
Charlie Mack,
That was his real last name?
that's his name.
And he's acting as a Mac?
Was he like a
No.
manager?
I mean, that's
No.
pretty Mac Daddy move to be like, what do you want? And then he gets it.
The
No,
Mac's a
he just
pimp.
knew me that
No, it's like a smooth guy.
The
he
Mac's
just knew I was a
pimp.
hardworking single mom
Uh-huh.
with these 2 kids, and I don't take stuff from people. Like people offer me stuff, and I come from the hood. Everything comes with a price. So, and then I find out the 48 laws of power. That's one of the laws of power. So maybe the hood isn't wrong. So I was like, I'm not taking anything. So he was like, I want to do something for you. I want to do something nice, very thoughtful. So I go and I meet Muhammad Ali. We go into the hotel room. We start having conversation. He was his motor skills were not with him anymore, but his mind and his humor was. We sat down and had a conversation. He proposed to me in a very Muhammad Ali like way. He was like, tell me what I mean to you. And I said, you changed my life. And he said, well, if I change your life, then won't you be my wife? That was a very Muhammad Ali thing to say. Anyway, we sat down.
I know.
He shared baklava with me. He was very generous. His wife was shopping. Lonnie went out shopping because she was in Beverly Hills. She would come in and check in. I met his son, and I met 2 of his daughters.
Did you meet May May?
No, May May was not. No, May May was not there. May May
Wait,
was
how
not
long
there.
ago was this?
May May was there.
Like
it was
20
before
years
he
ago?
died.
20 years ago?
So his motor skills
Before he
were
died?
exactly-
Oh, write that down.
It was a few years. So
Must have
it
been
was-
like 18 years ago.
yeah, because
So his motor skills were still. You said he answered the door.
Yeah, he opened the door.
Like he was still walking.
Yeah, he was still walking. He wasn't in the wheelchair yet. But
What
he
did you call him?
Was shaking.
Like when you referred to him
Champ.
personally. Champ. I was going to say you call him Champ?
Yeah.
That's
Champ.
fucking great.
Yeah.
Dank Abbott says if this is true, he was just trying to get up in them guts.
Jesus Christ.
Lovely.
Nice.
Don't shoot me, I'm just a messenger.
But he shared this baklava with me. Told me a funny story. He said, you know, they wrote more jokes about me than Jesus. And I said to him, Oprah said that that's not true on her show. And he said, if I'd have been a white man, she wouldn't have said that. So I thought that was funny because it was in his style of humor. But yeah, we got to spend the day with him. It was not the day, it was a few hours. And it was one of the most important moments of my life.
Jason Marino doesn't know if it's just the tone of her voice, but he believes everything you say.
I said it was gonna be,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
gonna be hard.
I was going to say, dude, she has that effect on me constantly. If you know anything about, like, her act or, like, her back, she could tell, like, the toughest ass story, and you'd just be like, yeah, I bet she did all that.
Yeah.
You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like, why would you expect anything different?
I tend to believe that story. Because personally, that fucking first story is a complete fucking lie. But I believe that story because he used to come here to Comedy Store all the time. Because May, his daughter, was doing comedy at the time, and he was a very kind gentleman, and people swarmed around him, and he was very generous with his time, even though he was, not 100%, but he was very generous. So I completely kind of sort of believe that story. What are your thoughts on that story, John Fugelsang?
I believe everything everyone said here today.
Okay. When I'm home, I don't want to run errands or have to figure out a meal plan, especially because I have kids. That's why Blue Apron is a great solution. Their chef-designed recipes are easy to follow and give you a balanced, delicious meal. Blue Apron is a quick and easy way to make high-quality meals that everyone can enjoy. Use promo code LIARS to get $30 off your first order. Blue Apron, take back dinner.
Real quick, Ryan said earlier that during Ida's stories, John would look into the camera so as to say maybe he doesn't believe something, or maybe he does. He's corroborating with
They've
something.
been hilarious looks.
Yeah.
Well, it
Seriously.
is interesting having been on John's show a couple of times. Like, you're always having to be super busy, and to sit there and watch you just kind of take your turn is a very interesting thing to take the back seat a little bit.
Delightful.
Well,
Thank
I
you.
asked-
I'm extremely, medicated, as I said, so it's moving kind of slow.
I asked the audience, what do you guys think that he's thinking when he does that? And Kia said, well, he's crafting his lies, obviously.
Yeah.
And that was for
I'm a
his-
white man. It's all lies. Nothing but. Never trust white pink devil.
So for John's first story, he was a young VJ and sent to work at Farm Aid in the 90s, where he got to interview Willie Nelson on his trailer. He said trailer,
Tour
not
bus.
bus.
Oh,
The same trailer he had been arrested in, and old Shotgun Willie asked him to stick around, so they hotboxed the hell out of that trailer, quote unquote. Then Willie hugged the devil out of him and healed John's middle school traumas. I thought it was strange that he called the bus the trailer like three or four times.
That is weird. That is weird.
I didn't even realize I did.
Yeah.
I thought they
Yeah.
were interchangeable. Because you know why? Because I live here, and we're used to being in
Actors in
trailers when we
trailers,
go to
yeah.
work. So
Story two.
Such a fucking liar.
I don't know otherwise else why I would say it. It was not a. It was a tour bus, the famous tour bus that Aida mentioned.
Story two. His brother was working as a Peace Corps worker in Peru with homeless street kids.
It wasn't Peace Corps, but it was a church. But yeah,
Similar, and he had to carry a bucket of water to flush his toilet, and John kept up with him during all this. One day, he said he saw some UFOs up in the mountains, so he invited John to come see him with him. They drive up the side of the mountain in the pitch black Andes Mountains, where he sees lights off into the distance that looked very UFO-like helicopter things, and that was pretty much it. And
That's
y'all
pretty
thought y'all might have heard that story on his show.
Yeah, but I can't. I think we have heard that story before, but I don't
all those
remember.
ancient alien stories were all in Peru, though.
I don't remember the ending. Whether you were lying or not when you told us that story.
Are you sure I told you that story?
You did.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think
You
so.
did.
Because as you were saying it, I was like, "Fuck, this sounds
Yeah.
really familiar."
And we wouldn't both be like that if it was.
but the question is, was it a lie or not a lie?
I think it's the truth.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the truth too, because if you're in a bus trailer, you're in a trailer with Willie Nelson with 5 other guys, and you guys are passing around.
No, there's multiple.
What you said 5?
There were multiple clay pipes. I don't know.
Right,
remember
like
how many.
5
I don't remember
each.
how many
Yeah,
there were.
yeah.
There was 5 guys. I don't know how many
Right.
pipes there were.
Okay.
I didn't count.
I think that first story is just a lie. I think it's.
You know-
I think part of it's true, but I think the. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Michael.
I think you're on the right track. I think that the reason that the second one could be true is because he wouldn't have to, I don't know. He's telling us, he made sure to tell us, I think I saw lights. I don't know how to explain what I saw. I just saw something.
I don't claim I saw anything specifically extraterrestrial.
Right. But the whole crux of that story would be like,
why do we all use crux now?
Sorry, the clinker here. Hey, the long and veiny of it is that the story would be exciting because it's like I went on this weird Peruvian and I saw maybe alien. Like he made it super safe. He made sure to cover his base by saying, "I'm not claiming I saw anything fantastic out there."
Well, then it's also like if we heard that story before, it would be.
But in what context was he lying? Were y'all doing the podcast
we
on his
were
show?
on
basically?
his show, and I think we were just talking about the podcast, and then we simply did a couple of stories.
Yeah.
And I think that was the story you told. But what gets me then is, even though we don't remember the ending, like why. It must be true because why would he just tell the same story and
That,
remember
or what
it?
if he just said that's like a lie and he was like, oh yeah, that's a good lie I tell.
Yeah, and he didn't have a lot of details on that second story. And some.
Oh, I can give you more details if you want.
Oh yeah, okay.
Ask any questions. What do you want to know?
So how many lights altogether did you see?
I don't remember.
Okay.
There was someone had died on the trail up. There was like a cross in the road where someone had died on the trail driving up
in Peru.
The mountain. Yeah,
they were Christians in Peru.
In South America?
I don't know.
He
never
was there
been to
on
South
a
America.
Christian thing.
Well, yeah, but that's
Trump
usually
is
like
president.
you're trying to win people to be Christians.
South of our border is predominantly
You ain't
Christian.
wrong.
They have a lot of them. And then they have a lot of them. And then a whole bunch of white people go over there to make sure that the ones that aren't Christian
Get
become
back in line.
Christian.
Yes,
And that's not what my brother was doing, in fairness.
No.
He wasn't a proselytizer. He was there to, help poor people.
What do you think, Ida? Which one do you think is the lie?
The Willie Nelson.
Yeah, I think the Willie Nelson.
Yeah, the
thing
second
is a
story's
total lie.
true.
Yeah.
The second story's true.
And I think you're a pretty in control person, even when you're completely stoned. So I think that you wouldn't have been blabbing your mouth at Willie Nelson.
But he does
like
have
that.
anxiety, doesn't he?
That's a polite term.
I'm
for what I
only
have.
assuming. I'm
That's
sorry.
a polite term for what I have. Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's take a vote. Michael, what do you think?
I think that second story's true.
I do too.
Yep.
Yeah. And
First
you,
one's a
Austin?
Yeah, same. Smoking weed with Willie, that's just like a fantasy of everybody. You might have even probably done it, but something was a little off so that you could make that your lie.
Yeah.
What's the consensus online?
It seems like everybody's pretty much with us, except for
I'll give that one more try, Jess.
What about the Jezebel's online?
What's the crux of their commentary?
Melody Martinez actually says both second stories are lies. The second Dan Cabot says the second story is how butt stuff starts. I don't know if that's true. Jason Marino says John's first true, second lie. So he's opposite of us, actually. Thinks that the Willie Nelson thing is true. I might change mine because I kind of think that the Willie Nelson thing is true too.
You think it is a simple?
Well, I'm trying to think of
simple
what I think
truth.
is the interchangeable
I'm not gonna
detail.
Say anything. I'm not.
All
Gonna...
right.
My brain
I'm
is
gonna
already
change.
moving on to anxiety about Ida's stories.
Yeah,
here.
yeah. All right. So which story is a lie?
The Willie Nelson story has less truth to it. And if I'd remembered that I told you the UFO I already thought the UFO story was too absurd to be fake. And then
Right.
if I totally forgot that I had told it to you when we played this game a year ago. Such a bad choice. The Willie Nelson story, about half of it's true, and the fun half is completely fake. I really was on the.
Well, a white
and
elephant never forgets.
And I really was a bus, not a trailer, but I really was on it, and I had to ask Willie to move the weed out of our shot.
Oh, really?
Okay,
there you go.
Well,
All
very
right,
good. Very good.
All right. So let's move on to the recap of Ida's
I thought
two
I
stories.
sold the fake story pretty well. My real story was too outlandish to be fake.
Well, it's just
it was a great it was a great way to play the game, but
Yeah.
we just heard that story.
yeah. And what
That's
gets me is when you were like, I was so baked, and it's like 5 little bowls between 6 people moving
No,
around.
there were
bowl.
multiple pipes.
I would
Right, no, I know, but that's
I
5
still can't get the
pipes
smell out of my
moving
clothes.
around, and then 5.
I think if you would have said that you got high with, I don't know.
I made it up because I got high with a much more famous music star that I could
Was it
never
Snoop
say.
No,
Dogg?
I'm saying, but if you would
No,
have
much
said,
more
Because somebody
famous.
online said something about you smoking with Snoop Dogg, and I don't know if they were making
No,
a
I
joke.
think I
or
know
that-
who it is, but
that-
I'm not gonna
smoking
say
with
it.
Snoop Dogg is like smoking with Willie Nelson. Everybody's
Yeah.
done
Yeah,
it.
that's
But
what
I
I
have
said.
someone much more famous that I can never say that I just swapped it out with Willie because I really was on his bus, and I thought that's plausible.
Right. Oh, I'm gonna ask
And
who
me
that
and me
is
talking too
afterwards.
much is plausible
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
So
All right, let's move on to Ida's recap.
This sucks. I want to know who it was.
Merle Haggard.
We'll tell you later.
Story 1, she
no,
lived
but
in...
I saw Merle in Vegas, and I was very high.
Yeah, he's a big smoker. Story 1, she lived in Miami as a kid, and Uncle Luke was a DJ in middle school where she learned to pop that coochie. She was a Seventh-day Adventist and was obsessed with strippers, so one day she goes up to Tallanastee and wants to participate in an amateur strip contest. So her, the devil, and 2 other girls go to Podunk, Palatka, Florida, put on some wigs, and pop that coochie at a little hole in the wall called the White Elephant. But she busted her ass and made a fool of herself. Go Gators.
I want you to send me that because I'm going to pitch that.
I love that.
Yeah, I was gonna say hot recap. Dog.
I remember that song "Pop the Coochie" on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
When it comes to Florida stories, I can tell them.
You already know.
Hey, this
Every
is
girl.
why the live viewers don't like my recaps. Cool it down. Bud.
Sorry. Story 2, she has a friend named Charlie Mack that is enamored with her and wanted to make a dream come true for her, and all she wanted was to meet Muhammad Ali. So old Charles lined it up in Beverly Hills, and she gets to meet the artist formerly known as Cassius in his house.
I
like your
believe. I
recaps.
believe
you.
number 2. I believe
Well,
number 2.
I believe number 2. Number 1 is just some bullshit. You are so scared with the first time you strip. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you are surrounded by professional strippers since you were 7. I don't care what the story is. When you first time do it, no one in their right mind says, even if they, from not practicing on the pole, I'm going to take on that pole.
I completely disagree. Couldn't disagree more. And I'll tell you, if you research strip culture in Miami, it is not something. It's out of the ordinary for people who. It's part of our culture. Atlanta, Miami, Houston.
You and Palatka
In
now.
the urban, yeah. That's why you're especially when you go to Palatka, because you like
We don't have clear heels in Palatka.
I will dust every single white girl in here because I can dance naturally. I don't need to be coached to be a stripper. It's not something out of the ordinary.
Were you
for somebody.
doing any
She's protesting
drugs
too
or
much.
drinking
I know,
to
I
get
think
No.
so.
This is beside the story. This is beside the story. Completely disagree with you. Completely disagree.
She's fighting
It's
hard.
But
fun to
so
believe
you weren't
Ida.
were you doing any drugs or like drinking so
Nah,
you could get the
I've never
courage?
done drugs.
What was
Ever
the
did
song
them.
you did it to? What was the song?
It was called
It's
Irk and
a-
Jerk.
Oh, really?
Irk and
Yeah.
Jerk. You got me doing it, baby. Yeah. You can't forget the song that you fell to. It's traumatic.
God damn it.
Irk
Oh my
and
God.
Jerk. Google
I
it.
believe
See
the
if that's a
second-
real
I believe the
You
second
got
story.
me doing
I just
it,
watched
baby.
you on Robert
Ida
Kelly's
is the
podcast,
better liar.
and it helped me none
yeah.
in this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh,
It
yeah.
helped me none. I thought I was gonna get some more insight on her, and I don't fucking know. You know her better. You'd think she wouldn't pop that coochie.
I think no. I think she. I don't. I think she would try to do it. That part I don't have a problem with. I can't imagine, like I said, someone
For
the
the first
first
time.
time stripping, going to try the pole because and especially since she couldn't walk on her shoes.
She was 19 though.
Yeah.
When you got that false, I don't know if I'm saying this right, bravado or whatever.
bravado.
That was what Muhammad Ali was having in the hotel room.
No, I don't.
Yeah, and you think you
no.
could do anything?
No, yeah. I mean, we're obviously completely different people, but I think that first story is just horseshit. I think that happened to your friend. And
You're
it didn't
talking
happen
to
you.
somebody who did stand-up comedy without ever doing an open mic and going to the Laugh Factory and doing stand-up in front of a bunch of people that without ever thinking that I couldn't do it, not
Right.
knowing what a premise was, not knowing what a...
Did you do your whole set crowd work?
Absolutely.
Oh, you did? I was
Yeah,
gonna
I
say,
didn't know
then
what
shut
it-
the fuck up.
I didn't know a joke. Absolutely. I
Really?
didn't know what the fuck...
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Ask Pookie Wigginton. He'll tell you.
But you were older too, though, not 19.
Yeah, I became more fearful as I became older. When I
Uh-huh.
was younger, I was fearless. I could do anything. You couldn't tell me I couldn't do shit.
Well, did
But-
you say how you found out about a open stripper mic in Palatka all the way when you were in
in
Tallahassee.
in the newspaper. All of the
Who books that?
Because that's like a 2 hour. I mean, that's not like a
No,
hop, skip, and a jump down the
That's
road.
yeah,
true.
really.
but from that part, no. You from Gainesville, that's everything is a 2-hour stretch. Everything that happens in those areas. I used to shop at the Avenues Mall in Jacksonville, and I went to school at Tallahassee.
If this story was true, she wouldn't be trying so hard to convince you.
It does feel like you're protesting too much.
No,
It
I
does
just
feel-
disagree with your. I'm not fighting for the story. I just disagree with
Your logic.
Your logic about strippers. I
Yeah.
just think that's not true at all.
So does everybody think that Ida's first story is a lie?
I think it's a lie. What do people online say?
I think they're kind of with us. Everybody
I
thinks
believe
that
everything Ida said. I'm like a Trump supporter for her.
No!
I believe everything she says.
Trump 2020.
Dank and Melody both say first true. They were both wrong on John's stories, though,
Uh-huh.
so keep that in mind.
Uh-huh.
Damn, you fucking-
Jason Marino said she's competitive, selling both stories very hard. Dank says again, if it happened in Florida, it's got to be true, which that's the only reason. I mean, it does sound like a very
Fair enough,
Florida
fair
story,
enough,
so
fair
that's why I'm going
enough.
to say it happened to somebody else,
Yeah.
but it's still a lie.
Imagine-
gutsy call.
Imagine the Muhammad Ali one's not true. Those are like interestingly obscure creative details to come up with. Like they're just mundane enough to feel real, but just
Oh, that
incredible
would be
enough
creepy
to feel-
almost,
Yeah,
yeah.
almost creepy details if she invented them.
I'm
it
an
seems like
amazing
she's
writer,
she's
though.
and I believe that. hey, Ida, I believe everything you fucking said. You could tell me
The
you
baby
flew here on a
wipes were
broom, and I would
great
believe
detail.
it.
Baby
Yeah.
wipes, great detail.
But see, but maybe
Oh,
because I
that
did
is a
it
good
way
fucking
before, then
detail.
I don't have a recollection of baby wipes or any of that
Where
kind of
the
stuff.
hell
And-
did you strip?
by the airport.
The airport.
She didn't have poles.
Everybody knows about the baby wipes. They wipe
wow.
their coochies
They actually
off
dip
before-
the girls in vats of hand sanitizer by the airport.
Now,
Her
now.
name was Carrie
There's a
On.
harness system they have.
Did your kids go in the room when you met Muhammad Ali?
They did.
They did, and your 8-year-old son didn't know who Muhammad Ali was. Did you explain it to him as you were going to go meet Muhammad Ali?
I did.
Yeah, I'm gonna still stick with the first story. It's a
I
lie.
think everybody's
All
pretty
right.
much on the same page.
No, I'm gonna say the first story's true and the second's a lie.
Okay.
Fuck.
All right. All right.
Michael?
I think that she's a very determined woman. She left home at 17, didn't go back. She's made her way here. Like she said, she went up on stage with never doing stand-up.
I believe both stories, because both stories are consistent with her character. She wants something that is
Yeah.
ridiculous to want, and she goes for it.
Yep.
My stories are about Oklahoma redneck fantasies. So
Let's
I
not
mean, I
forget
totally-
the Charlie Mack detail. That was kind of a weird.
Yeah, but
Charlie
I
Mack
think
is
I've
too
heard
ridiculous.
that name before.
Charlie Mack
though.
is too
Let
ridiculous
me
to be
ask you
fake.
this: did the stripper thing happen after you had? Because I know you had your first.
I was
son.
after. I already had my baby.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That
Damn.
first story is a lie. So we're gonna go ahead and ask you.
So wait,
which-
Michael, what'd you vote?
So you thought I
Fuck, man. I don't know. I like running wherever Felicia's going. That
First
feels
is a
safe.
lie.
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna go
think
first.
it makes
is
sense.
a
Maybe
lie.
after the baby, she needed a little, Ida got her groove back.
You know, it's not that I'm. It's not that I'm confident the first is a lie. It's that I'm confident the second one's true. It felt she was glowing when she told it. She's so proud of that shit. And if it wasn't true, you're a sick fuck of a good
Yeah,
liar.
really.
You're
And the
supremely confident.
And the whole thing in the beginning of the first story, like this is about shame and about this, and that just seems like you would start your lie with all this information that you don't really need to. So I'm gonna still stick with the first story is a lie. Ida, which story is the lie?
I had the first story.
First,
okay.
I knew
Listen.
Two
let
for
me.
two.
Please.
Let me. Let me. Say,
Please.
I stand by the jumping on the stripper pole. It is part of the culture. And when I went to the Spearmint Rhino, there were baby wipes everywhere,
Detail.
which was fucking disgusting. And that's what they told me. That I was doing research to interview to do a documentary on strippers. And
That's
they
where I
took-
go.
And they said, no, I went and interviewed and I talked to Asia at the Spearmint Rhino, and she said, oh, yeah, the baby wipes that we're supposed to wipe down
Yep.
before we hit the pole.
I have a joke that you have to wipe down your pole each and every time.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Did
yeah.
you make up the white elephant?
No, that was
Place
a
in
real
Palatka.
strip. Yeah. In
So
Central Florida.
was that story part of someone else's story? Like how did you
No,
come up on
I
that
made it up.
story?
It was
100%.
It was
made
me
up?
on the runway. I fell on the runway. Me modeling, not stripping.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and I did have my baby, and
Right.
I did jump on the runway without ever knowing anything about modeling, and believe that I could do
That
it
was
on
smart.
some 6-inch shoes.
The
Smart.
runway.
And I
Put
did
some-
fall.
The runway is what they called the stage at Felicia's Club too.
Kinda true, kinda true. Yeah, for
She
sure.
said,
when
did
she
you
was,
hear him earlier? Your name was Carry On,
Yeah.
and you walked the runway.
Right.
Hilarious.
Wow, that I knew it was bullshit when you were all like, "Yeah, everyone can just get on the pole." No, bitch,
Yes,
there's no
they
one getting
do.
on the pole like that the
Yes,
first time.
they do.
No,
Yes,
the
they
first
do.
time without practicing.
Yes, you don't, Felicia. It is a cultural thing. I'm telling you, you are completely wrong.
No, I do.
Black
believe it's
girls
a
and brown
cultural
girls,
thing.
they jump on the pole, and it is. That's how they learn. Like you have to go to the Rolex. You have to
yeah,
go to the
maybe
clubs
the
and
It's like riding
the
a
third
bike.
time you dance, and you're like, "Oh, try the pole
No.
now," but not the first time.
wrong. I'm trying
There's
to
a
tell
brand
you.
new podcast
that
being
people-
born right now.
Listen, people
Holes and holes. Felicia and Ida.
people practice lap dances at the club. It's not even. That's just part of the. I'm telling you, it started in Miami. It spread to Atlanta. It's Houston. It's those girls. They are relentless. They're fearless, and
I'd say a lot of their regular dancing is probably a lot of it is more freaky than a stripper would give you.
Yeah.
Jason Marino
That's
says, "Look at
crazy,
Ida,
yeah.
still fighting for it."
I know. What is up with that, Jason?
Because
I know.
I actually because I actually went to the strip club with my friend who did who jumped on the pole for the first time without ever being on a pole, and actually was able to. She was proficient. She wasn't like great, but she got on that pole. She was a track star, and she jumped on that pole, and she just ripped. We were like, what the fuck? It's not. It's just very common in Miami.
It got me out of the Navy.
Okay.
That pop the coochie shit was real.
I bet if you could do a pull up in high school, you're like, I could get on the pole.
Yeah, maybe.
I could
maybe.
not. So
You guys have been great guests. Thank
This
you
is
so much for
fun.
spending
your
some of your
show.
time and
Thank
sharing
you.
it with us. Where can people find you? What would you like to sell or tell people about that they can go look up?
Well, I'm going to do amateur night at the Spearmint in 2 weeks because I got to get this off my bucket list.
I would love to go see that,
Yeah.
by the way.
My
Just do a
friends
stand-up
actually
show on there.
my friends rented out a club for me for my birthday some years ago. And they were like, "Go, do it." And I danced, but I didn't get naked. I got partially naked, but I didn't get.
Did you get on
There
that
you
pole?
go.
Nah, I didn't. There was no pole in it because the club that they
Oh.
rented was in Hollywood.
Oh, okay.
You can find me at Funny Aida, AIDA.com, at Funny Aida on Instagram and on Twitter. And I will be performing at Magoobies on the weekend of Thanksgiving, that Friday and Saturday, 4 shows in Maryland, Timonium. So come check me out.
Nice.
Great. What about you, John?
At John Fugelsang on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and I do a show every night on Sirius XM Progress that 3 of you, all the females in this room, are going to be dragged off to tonight, I think.
Yes.
I've chloroformed you all.
Oh, thank
and then johnfugelsang.com, cool online store, and I'm going to be starting a tour with Lewis Black and Alan Zweibel called The Magnificent Bastards, and it's sit-down comedy. We come on stage with famous friends and tell stories. No stand-up, and that's going to launch Valentine's Day on Long Island, New York.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
coming soon near you.
You know, John actually gave me one of the most special moments of my life because you.
She has a big crush on
I-
him.
Oh, I have such a
I-
crush on her. You don't even
I have
know.
a crush on.
I have a crush on
both of
Aida.
these
I have a crush
people.
on you, Jess.
Yo, I got a
Yeah.
crush on you, John. Does anyone have a crush on me?
Me,
Yeah, absolutely.
Rock hard over here.
Gingers aren't real people.
No, I have a
Anyway.
deep crush on you.
Wow!
You look like the cutest guy in the entire militia. I'm so serious.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm
We're in
switching.
a bunker, so I feel like I should say
All right,
that.
cool. I'm switching to Ida. All right.
But I just wanted to say, like, because of knowing you too, that it's really enriched my life as a person, just even in understanding politics and all that kind of stuff. But the night that you were with Stephanie Miller and you guys were at the Saban Theater with Margaret Cho and Ted Lieu showed up and
Martin Sheen
and Martin
Adam
Sheen
Schiff
and Adam Schiff.
and Rob Reiner.
And Rob Ryan. It was such a cool night, and to see how everyone was hanging out and just talking, to see TV how Adam Schiff is totally doing this whole thing now is such a great moment that I got to share that.
Oh, I'm honored you came.
Yeah, it was really a cool thing.
All
And
I'm
you
trying to do is impress you. So.
Well,
yeah.
you've done your job. What about you, Austin? Where can people find you?
Well, not to take away from that, but Jason Marino was wondering, Ida, if you could say they jump on the pole one time slowly
Really
into the
slow.
camera for him.
They jump on the pole.
He's gonna love that.
Yeah, he's going to take that home.
Dirtier when she says it in Spanish.
Oh, I never.
Can you say it slowly in Espanol, please?
Se tiran al palo.
Oh!
That is the loving
Jesus.
tongue right there.
Wow.
I'm at the Austin Walker across the board
He's
on
blushing.
everything.
Look, he's
Oh,
blushing.
Yeah, young
Not all. Don't look under the table right
I
now.
feel like
Young
I'm getting
Southmouth.
whiter with each moment.
Yeah.
Help a young filmmaker and actor out. Help me fund my short film at the Austin Walker. You'll find the link there. Be here next Saturday. That's a week from this Saturday, November 30th. The Liars Club at the Belly Room of the World Famous Comedy Store. Annie Letterman, Neil Brennan, Nick Novicki, Matt Devlin. Probably more to come.
Yeah, more to
Jess
come.
Wellington, Michael Evans. They're going to be there. Felicia and I will not. Go Gators. Beat FSU.
All right. And what about you, Michael Evans?
Just high five Michael on Instagram. Check out my shit. I post dates all the time. I'm around town all the time. Come see me.
Yeah, and you're at the Improv quite a bit lately, and
I
good for you
am.
on that. Good
Thank
for you
you
on
for
that.
noticing.
Oh, and are we back here tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll see
We
y'all
got-
again tomorrow.
Yeah.
See you
Yeah.
guys tomorrow.
And you can follow me at Felicia Michaels all across the board. Do me a big favor. If you have Amazon Prime, please go check out my documentary called Pervs and or my comedy special called The Whole Story. You were there that night when I
Yeah.
taped that. Yeah. And but other than that, that's all I got to offer. Jessica?
Follow me at Jess Wellington 2 on everything. Again, just follow us on YouTube, The Liars Club, and our show at the Comedy Store is the most important. And you have been lied to.
I'm not telling that one.
Disney believe you. Will the real liar please stand up? Right?
She's totally serious.
And you have been lied to.